40 degrees in Florida here this morning. Just 2 or 3 days ago, it was like 85 in the middle of the day. I had to move my car this morning, and I discovered that the air conditioner was still turned on. And I got blasted after a few seconds with an even colder blast of air than the 40 degree temperatures we're experiencing now. That sucked. No big deal, I just finished my cup of tea. I'm nice and warm out here. I'll probably be taking off the sweatshirt in a little while. I am from the north, so just adjusting to the temperature change is what's got me right now. But otherwise, it's not too bad out here. I kind of like it. A friend of mine had a VFR 750, and he was unable to sell it. He's been sitting on it for a while. He's bought it brand new in 2006. He moved here from Arizona. The title got lost. You know, there's a whole spiel going on with his ex-girlfriend, and her name was on the paperwork, and it's just a mess. So he decided he wanted to sell it. Of course, we can't get as much money for it because it's missing the paperwork, and the bike was a little bit rough because it's been, you know, just moved around an awful lot in the garage. So he gave it to me, and he told me to give it a shot. Within 2 days, I sold it. You know me, I'm the hustler. I keep moving things. You've seen all the toys that I keep coming up with. Some of them only last sometimes a couple days, and that's what actually happened. But with the money we got for the VFR 750, we went and bought us a 1982 Goldwing GL1100 Cafe Racer. And this bike is just awesome. It needs a few things. The brakes need to be rebled because it's been sitting for a little while. The tires on it are brand new. You can see the tire hairs are still on the tires. The previous owner bought it from an old man who was a machinist, a mechanic, and a whole bunch of things. And this was a bike that he had, I believe, since it was new. And then he decided to chop it up and do something custom with it. And he even thought about flat track racing it, but in your late 70s and early 80s, well, that's probably not a good idea. So he turned it into a streetable bike, and that's what you see. Now you probably notice right off the bat, the Goldwing has a big ass 1100 engine on it. And it's a boxer engine. You see how wide it is. It's a 4-cylinder water-cooled engine, just like something you'd find out of a modern Subaru. Very similar to what you'd find in a old Volkswagen. Flat 4. It's got 4 carburetors on it, which do have a little bit of a problem. The floats leak on the carburetors. I kept finding a fuel leak under the bike, and it kept smelling like old gas, despite there being good gas, new gas in the tank. When I started to search around, I discovered it was coming out of an overflow on the side of the crankcase. So the crankcase is actually full of gas right now, so those carburetors are leaking. And when I turn the fuel on, you can actually see the bubbles traveling up through the fuel line, which means that the carburetors are dumping fuel. And the only place that it can go, of course, is down the intake manifolds, and then it leaks around the rings and into the motor. So that has to be taken care of before we start running this thing. It does run, and I do believe that is the only problem that we have with it, is that the carburetors are just flooding up the motor. So that needs to be fixed. We need to get an oil change in there. The front brake needs to be bled a little bit. The rear brake seems to work. Yeah, that one's okay. It shifts okay. It does start up. It does make some smoke, and it has trouble running on a couple of cylinders, but that would be typical if the carburetors, well, some of the carburetors are overflowing into the motor. I don't know which ones it is, as I haven't taken it apart yet. There is 4 carburetors on this, 1 per cylinder. You can see 2 of them there, and you see the other 2 right there. And a very common conversion that these GL guys, Goldwing guys, like to do with their bikes is they like to put a Volkswagen carburetor on it. And they put a single carb on it with an intake manifold that's X-shaped. And up underneath what this looks like a gas tank, but it's not, it's just a facade. It's just plastic. The air cleaner actually lives under there, so the carburetor has room to go up underneath that. The Volkswagen carburetor will give a lot more torque down low. So for driving around town, this would be much more practical, and probably even get better gas mileage versus going on the interstate or running the thing at full bore. We might lose a couple horsepower on the top end, but it really doesn't matter so much because we're not looking to, you know, win any 150 mile an hour races. though. It's just not necessary, especially when it's being used for commuting around town. So a Volkswagen carburetor might be what we wind up doing with this, rather than trying to rebuild and resync 4 carburetors. I'm really not excited about that if that's the route that we go. But it does need the oil cleaned out, as you know. It needs a front brake bled. It needs a bunch of things just cleaned up, tuned up, and repaired on it. In addition, that rear fender is just ugly. It was an afterthought between owners. The last guy put that on there. He thought it was what he wanted. I mean, I just think it looks bad. The seat is kind of big, but it goes with the look of the bike. A smaller seat just might not work. Just might not work with the lines at all. But I do think we need kind of a little bubble tail with a little tail light in the back of it. Something that makes it look a little more cafe-ish. I just think that what we've got here is just ugly. Yeah, this is all just ugly. In fact, it's not even held in there very well. Yeah, we found something else I need to fix. Very nice. So anyway, that's our Honda GL1100 project that's coming up soon. We'll see what happens with it. There's not a whole lot that I have to do with it, so there might be maybe 1 or 2 more videos on it. And we'll have the thing up and running, and it'll be out of here before you know it.